Hello, I wanted to make a video today regarding my ownership experience and efficiency numbers that I was able to calculate around owning a Jeep 4xe. The main ones that I'm wanting to cover are gas mileage, just pure gas mileage, what I think your commute could be, and then still have like decent numbers, and then lastly, just the electric efficiency of it, like when you're running in full electric, how efficient is it really versus the numbers that Jeep puts up. So just to kind of get into it, I owned a Jeep 4xe from September or August of 21 all the way through June or so of 22. I had a Sarge Green Sahara. It was a pretty sharp Jeep. I mean, I really liked it. But, you know, all along I kind of wondered, how efficient is it really? So that's what I wanted to provide a little bit of insight for you today. First off, just straight gas mileage. It got 19.31, right around 19 or 20 was pretty typical, but one time where I instrumented it and took photos, it was 164.7 miles that I went, and then the trip computer showed around 21 miles per gallon, and in reality the hand calculation showed 19.31. So you know, about 2 miles per gallon is what it was off, and that isn't too atrocious. It's probably pretty typical for a calculation there. But I would like to point out to you that if you have a long commute or if you do a lot of road trips, that should be it. Done. Just getting a regular Jeep with the Turbo 4 in it, it gets better gas mileage. So it would never, ever, ever pay off the premium that you're paying for it. And it would actually cost you more money in the long run. So just be aware that if you do a lot of road trips or if you have a very long commute, it actually doesn't make sense at all to get it. Number two, just what could you do as a daily commute and then still use the battery to its maximum potential? Me personally, I drove 6 miles to work and 6 miles back, so for the most part during my commute, I only used the battery. There were times though, if I had to run errands, it would run it out completely, and I was kind of surprised by that, but I mean, it wasn't too uncommon. And then, you know, you're getting pretty poor gas mileage at that point going forward. But I went on a trip. I was going 75 miles per hour on the interstate. I wanted to make note of A, where was the 50% mark? And then I took that to kind of mean like, this is you going to work, you have 50% battery remaining, and then you can come back with the remaining 50%. So I was able to go 25 miles at 75 mile an hour, and that on the dash, it was showing 29.8 miles per gallon. So you gotta assume that it's probably really like 27 or so miles per gallon is what you would really get doing that on a daily basis. And then also, you're not accounting for your electricity charge there, what you're paying for electricity. So if you charge for work for free, then, you know, great, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. But if you are paying for it, then you'd have to calculate that yourself. So basically, you could go 25 miles to work and 25 miles back, running it in hybrid mode, and then you would fully deplete the battery and maximize it and get better than just a typical Jeep would. You know, 2-3 miles per gallon maybe. So if you're going to go all the way to work, charge for free while you're there, and then drive all the way back, at 0%, I had gone 48.7 miles. Again, it was right at like 29.7 miles per gallon is what the computer is calculating. So really probably, again, you know, around that 27 mile per gallon range. But again, you know, if you charge for free, sure, yeah, it kind of makes sense. But those are kind of the limits that I could see that you could use this on a daily basis without making it completely inefficient and pointless. That gets me to my third point. I'm going to talk about the electric efficiency of it. And I realize that this is after I posted on a few different other videos and on Reddit and that sort of thing. This is a very sensitive topic that people get very mad about very quickly because if they already own a Jeep 4xe. I imagine that they've never actually looked at the efficiency numbers or calculated them themselves. But what I'm about to tell you is just what I gathered from my experience and part of the decision that I made to trade it back in and get something different. So February of, I guess it was 2022, I drove, I guess, let's see, 197.8 miles. Just using pure electric, just driving to and from work, 5 miles there, 5 miles back, thereabouts. I used 176 kilowatt hours. I parked it outside under a carport, left it plugged in all night while it was charging. I would get in the Jeep and I would use the heater. I'd use the heated seats. I would use the heated steering wheel, because why would you not? I would drive to work. I would park it there, and then it would do whatever it would need to do with the battery to maintain it during the day. And then I would drive it back home and I'd plug it right back in. So that's 197.8 miles of just normal daily commute, city. I didn't get on the highway with it. It won't really do all that great on the highway in just battery electric vehicle mode. So that's just me commuting to work and then back with it being on an electric vehicle. It came out to 0.89 kilowatt hours per mile. If you do it the other way around, it's 1.12 miles per kilowatt hour. But, for me, the green that I care about is money. So I'm going off of how much money is it saving me. So at 0.89 kilowatt hours per mile, we pay 14 cents per kilowatt hour. So I am paying 0.12 or 12 cents per mile that I drive it on pure electric. And let me be clear too, when I say kilowatt hour, that is a unit of energy. So if you were to take a bucket and say it's a gallon, and you have a little tiny hose going into it and you fill it up, it's going to take a long time. Think about that as being level 1 charging. And if you also have a big old huge hose that you're putting water into it, it's going to take a lot less time to fill up that 1 gallon. So think of that as like your level 1 and your level 2 charging. At the end of the day, it's the same volume of water that you're putting into it. So it's the same amount of electricity that's going into your Jeep. So don't confuse that between level 1 and level 2 charging. You're using the same amount of energy, roughly, between one versus the other to completely charge your battery. And so that's what I really wanted to look at, is in terms of energy cost, how efficient is it? So 12 cents per kilowatt, or 12 cents per mile at 14 cents per kilowatt hour. And that can only really get worse as your electricity rates go higher. It's really cheap here in Tennessee. So right now we are paying roughly $2.80 per gallon for gasoline. So the equivalent of that is if you had $2.80 per gallon that you're paying, and you're wanting it to cost 12 cents per mile, that is the same as a 23.3 mile per gallon vehicle. Now, if I am to believe the people that own and drive just the regular 4-cylinder turbo Jeep Wranglers, that's what they say they get. So I don't really see any advantage to owning the 4xe. And it's only going to get worse as gas prices go down, and I hope they do. So if gas prices go up, that number's going to look more attractive. Gas prices go down, it's going to look worse. So basically, for my calculations, 12 cents per mile is what I was paying, and that is the equivalent of getting 23.3 miles per gallon. Now, in Tennessee in February, I looked back at the temperature range, and it ranged from 20 degrees up to 70 degrees. So not incredibly cold, not incredibly warm either. Now, I would imagine the numbers are the same for the summer months when I'm running the air conditioning really hard, when it's like 90-some degrees out all the time. I don't know. I mean, if you were to live in like a place where you never use air conditioning and you never use heat, then yeah, it might get closer to the efficiencies that Jeep runs around touting, like the 60 MPG or whatever it may be. In reality, I just don't think that you're going to get that. So therefore, I traded it in. Now, if you charge for free at work, then who cares? You're not paying for it. Just go ahead and let somebody else pay for it. That always makes sense to me. The efficiency drain that we saw on it is pretty normal. So if you go and you just Google how much efficiency you lose with a electric vehicle whenever it's cold, it'll tell you about 30%. And that's about like what we were seeing there. we leased a Nissan Leaf back years ago, and that's what we would notice as well. You know, you would have this like huge range that it would show, and then like if you were driving around when it was cold and you're using the heater, you'd see it drop by about a third at least. So, you know, the numbers that I'm seeing here, I don't think are completely out of line with what I would expect. Same with air conditioning. If you run it, it runs the efficiency down quite a bit. So for that reason, just the efficiency is enough for me to say, just don't do it. In my opinion, what they ended up doing was just taking a Jeep Wrangler, which is extremely popular and a cool car, and then just slapping a hybrid system in there, and then just saying like, hey, it's a plug-in hybrid. We now get $7,500 on a tax rebate, and then they charge you $10,000 or so more, just so that they can turn around and pocket that $7,500 themselves, and then you're paying, you know, a couple thousand more than you would as a premium over just a regular Jeep. But in reality, it's actually a little bit less efficient. The other two pieces that kind of drove me away from it was the battery warranty. The word from Jeep, you know, if you were to go and get like a Tesla, it'll say like, okay, you know, at 10 years, you're going to have 70% of your original battery capacity. So, you know, if it's going, you know, 300 miles whenever it's brand new, then in 10 years, you're guaranteed to get at least 210 miles out of it. That's pretty cut and dry. That's pretty good warranty. With Jeep, I asked the same thing, and they couldn't answer that at the dealership. So they were like, oh yeah, we think it's the same thing. And they went and asked Jeep, and Jeep came back and said, no, as long as it holds a charge, as far as we're concerned, the battery's okay. So that means to me, 6 years, 8 years from now, say I'm only getting 5 miles per charge. That's okay with Jeep. As long as it holds a charge, then it doesn't apply to the battery warranty. That kind of made me nervous. That may not be realistic at all to worry about that, but it made me nervous. That was a contributing factor. And the other piece too is like just driving to and from work. I had it brick on me one day. I was driving along and all of a sudden it just locks up. The power steering goes out. The accelerator just goes out. I had to just drift over to the side of the road. Luckily there wasn't any traffic at the time. Put it in park, restarted it, started up just fine. The dealership, all they did was reflash the computer and said, oh, I should take care of it. I looked around in like a lot of forums and stuff, and it's happened to more people. They may have resolved this now, but yeah, people going down the road in like Atlanta traffic going like 80 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden your Jeep just locks up and you have to safely get it over to the side of the road to restart it. That didn't really sit well with me. I have 2 small kids and I don't want to be dangerous. So that was a big concern for me. So went ahead and traded it in while I could still make money on it versus waiting and maybe taking a loss on it later. So, you know, those reasons, the efficiency, the numbers just aren't there to justify it. You know, number 2, the battery warranty just kind of makes me nervous. And then number 3, just the reliability of it. Jeep is pretty new to the EV game. It's a sharp looking product, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you kind of got to wonder about the long-term reliability of it. And you know what kind of issues you're going to run into doing it this early on. But anyways, I know that those opinions can kind of be controversial, but I wanted to make this video just to kind of let people know what I saw and just kind of share my experience. Like, subscribe. I'll continue to make videos. And if you don't agree with me, then go ahead, add a comment. We'll talk about it. But I think that my numbers are pretty spot on. So, yeah, please leave comments. Let's talk about it. Hope that helps. Thank you.